Hi, this is Mark. Congratulations. You have found this amazingly awesome show. Chances are you're listening to it right now on whether it's iTunes or Stitcher Radio or some other mobile app that allows you to stream this amazingly awesome show to your ear holes. And I can't stress how awesomely amazing this show really is. But did you know that you can also catch the latest episode of this show on the Tangibound Network? That's right. Go check out tangiboundnetwork.com. You can look them up and you can listen to it right there. It's even mobile friendly. What more could you ask for? Which means you can pull it up on your iPhone or your Android, even your Windows phone. Yeah, who has one of those? But still, point remains, you can do it. You can do it. Check it out, tangiboundnetwork.com. Listen to this show, the latest episode, every time. Check it out.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. As always, I'm Brian. Joining me is Henno.
Hello.
And, again, no Jen this week. She's taking a few weeks off. She's getting hitched this weekend, and, then gallivanting around on a honeymoon or something, and then, I believe she's planning on coming back some point after that. So,
ruining a perfectly good relationship.
Yeah.
Why do you want to go do that for?
Yeah, I know, right? It's like that old song, then you went and said something stupid like I love you, like that kind of a thing, yeah. Like, yeah, we had a good thing going. Why'd you have to go and ruin it?
Go and ruin it with that.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, how you been, Henno?
Doing well. It's been I kind of feel a little bit more like myself this week.
That's good.
And I don't have any real reason why. I've kind of been sharing about how I'm just like, I feel a little off. And I think it's worn off.
All right. Well, yeah, that's good at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and I've had stuff happen. My dad had to go in for emergency surgery on Friday.
Yeah.
Like, they called 911, get the ambulance. He all of a sudden was in a bunch of pain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, which means he's probably had discomfort for like a month.
Yep. Yeah.
And didn't say anything until it got too bad.
That makes sense. That's the way my dad was too.
Yeah. And, so they ended up, it's probably, some diverticulitis probably. And so they ended up taking like a foot out of his small intestine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that had me a little bit freaked out just because he's 85.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. That's,
when you're 85, surgery can be a little rough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when I talked to him on Saturday, he sounded fine. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
I can't fix it.
Right.
There's nothing I can do except just, stay in contact. And, my mom needed obviously to, she was finding the house a little bit empty.
Yeah, I would think so. Sure.
That kind of thing, but yeah, had a decent weekend and this week's been good and been to the gym and taking care of myself kind of just even like cooked a couple times this week, just like the slump is over.
Yeah. Well, good. That's, yeah.
So, yeah. It's always nice to report in on that.
Yeah, definitely. It's always nice to, you know, it's always nice to hear other people are, you know, have busted the slump or, you know, and as well, because, you know, you never wish it on people, you know, you don't, you know, and we all know what it's like to go through those, and it's, you know, sometimes more brutal than others, but sometimes, you know, like you said, just feeling off to where, you know, that's the way I was last week too. Like I was just really, I don't know, it was just really strange, and I was that way the early part of the week, but mine over the weekend and the early part of the week, there's a reason for. But do you have anything else to talk about? No, okay. Well, my reason is because I'm back on my antidepressant. So I finally got, you know, Friday was my birthday, and you know, I it sucked because I could not get to sleep Thursday night into Friday. I just could not fall asleep. And, you know, so I sat up, I grabbed my iPad, I started reading some comics, you know, read that for a little while, jumped into the news app and just started reading some, you know, some various stuff, and just, nothing. Just was not getting tired in the least bit. And, you know, my mom was like, hey, do you want to go grab lunch? And I was like, yeah, well, might as well, because I cannot sleep, so might as well, you know, and, you know, the longer you try, the more frustrating it gets, and it just, at some point you have to just, this isn't happening right now, you know? And, so I got up and, you know, we had lunch, and, you know, that was good. And while we were out, I was like, you know, can we swing by the doctor's office? 'Cause this has been really frustrating me. I am tired of not being able to line up with the doctor. Something's got to give here, you know? And I was fully well walking in. You know how sometimes before you think there's a potential for conflict, so you kind of like armor up mentally, you know? So in my head, I'm like, you know, it was basically I'm doing the equivalent of like hitting some push-ups to get my swole on before, you know, walking in.
Totally.
You know, and
good and bad thing. You know?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm preparing to go to war here, you know, and it's not, and then I get in and, I tell the clerk what's going on. And I was like, is there any way that, you know, my therapist might be here? And sure enough, she was. I caught her right in between patients. So there was no like breaking anyone's therapy or anything. 'Cause honestly, I was at that point to be like, I need this to happen. Like, I'm really sorry, but if there's any way that she can take 3 minutes and solve this for me, I need it to happen, basically, you know? And, so I talked with her a couple minutes. She got me, my medicine, and I was like, in the future, is there a way we can avoid this? Like, just in case I can't line up with you, is there someone else here that can, and she told me a name of someone that is there, that's there like every day. That's basically my doctor's, I don't know, I forgot what the term for it is. She's a nurse, but she's also the one that, you know, when you go to the doctor's office, the one that walks you into the room, does all your vitals and whatnot. She basically is the one who does that, and it also answers phone calls for the doctor, basically. So she's a nurse, but she's like, it's almost like she's an assistant to the doctor more than she's a nurse, you know? So, and she's there all the time. So I was like, oh, if I'd have known that, I would have just called her, you know, 'cause yeah, you know, but whatever. Anyway, you know, and I found out my doctor hadn't been getting my phone calls. So she was not happy about that. And I was like, yeah, that needs to change, because, you know, I'm like, as a result, I went 2 weeks without my antidepressant again, which you're not supposed to do. So I've now lived through my body going through medicine withdrawals 3 times.
Wow.
You know, and it's like, luckily this time wasn't so bad. You know, other than I started having, odd dreams again, but you know, then getting the medicine, getting it back in my system. So kind of over the weekend, the beginning of the week, I've felt a couple of days, were just really off for me. And, like I woke up, I think it was Tuesday, and I woke up and man, I was just like mad at the world. And, you know, aside from, I know it's an adjustment from the medicine, but you know, it's one of those where like nothing caused it, as far as like no one made me mad. You know, it was just, unfortunately, sometimes you kind of you have to ride out a wicked wave when you go on medicine, you know? So yeah, but anyways, I think I'm pretty well adjusted to it though. I think it didn't take very long. Yeah. And I feel a little different now. That feeling of being off that I've had for a little bit is gone. You know, I feel a little more like what my new normal is essentially while I'm on this, you know, cause I know what that floor feels like, you know, and again, whenever that starts feeling like it's slipping away, it's like, oh boy, cause you know, I've worked hard to try to not control and hang on to everything, but when you feel that floor slipping away, you're grasping, you know, like, you know, like, and, so yeah, but I'm glad that finally got sorted out and, you know, looks like I got a plan for at least a little bit of the future with it. So, and hopefully we're supposed to see if we can get something done with my insurance. Cause I guess my insurance usually will cover my medicine, but for some reason they're turning it down. So
weird.
Yeah. I got to talk to like the drug rep and maybe have them talk to the pharmacy to tell them what they need to know to process it or something. I don't know. It's silly. Yeah. The rep from the drug company said they pay for that insurance company pays for it, like, normally, like, all the time.
Yeah.
So, she's like, I actually find it weird that they didn't pay for it. So, I was like, all right.
Yeah.
We'll see. To be continued, I guess. But yeah, you know, like I said, Friday was my birthday. We had gone out the week before with friends and stuff to celebrate, you know, so I didn't really, you know, I went out to lunch with my mom, and that was about it. It was pretty low-key as far as the day goes and stuff, you know, But one thing I do want to talk about, of course, was last week I talked about how it's weird as you get older, you know, you kind of, like, people don't really fuss over your birthday so much. And, you know, I've made comments on the show about how I've made a lot of friends with people online, and I talk with people a lot online. And I got so many DMs, mentions on Twitter. You know, I got some on Facebook, and it's just so many people, and they weren't all just like the, hey, generic, it's your birthday type thing, you know?
Yeah.
And, even if they were, it's still, they still took the time to say it, you know, even if it's happy birthday and that's it, you know, it's still, they still took the time, you know, they could have just as easily ignored it. But man, I was so overwhelmed with how many people actually reached out to me because, you know, again, I'm constantly fighting a self-esteem issue, you know, and then when you have that many people kind of like people reaching out to me going, you know, saying stuff to me about like, you know, hey, happy birthday. And I'm like, oh, thanks, you know, and they were like, yeah, I wanted to make sure I reached out to you because blah, blah. And they went into like, because I really like you, or you're one of my favorite people on here, these kind of things. And it's, you know, you're just like, wow, okay, that's awesome. You know, it's really cool, you know? And, so yeah, obviously I you know, I was wrong last week and, I'm big enough to admit it. And
I like that you had that you got like DMs and stuff. Those are even like better.
That's why you know, I'll pull the curtain back a little bit. I sent Henno a message. I don't remember if it was Friday or Saturday, but I was like, dude, I'm getting so many messages. And I was like, I clearly have to talk about this because I pointed it out. And, yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, it's so cool that people reach out to you, you know, like I said, cause in the past I've had the ones where, you know, you get people, you know, you always get the ones in social media and stuff because it says it's your birthday. You know, Twitter has balloons that fly up on your profile if you have your birthday listed. You know, Facebook tells all your friends, hey, it's his birthday. But again, you can ignore that. So I don't minimize that at all. You know, people are still taking a minute and saying, hey, happy birthday. You know?
Happy birthday. Yeah.
And they don't have to. It's not like, and there's no, as far as I know, there's no like button where you just click into where it's like, click here to wish them a happy birthday. And it just auto sends one, you know? So it's like I said, it's still pretty cool. And, you know, I got some of those Funko Pops that I like to collect and, you know, which.
Yeah, those look cool.
Yeah. Cool. I always love getting those. You know, I got one that's, Clark Kent like pulling his shirt and jacket open to reveal Superman, which is my favorite one that they've made. So I was really excited to get that one. And,
that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I bought myself a Batman t-shirt that I posted pictures online of too. Cause as soon as I saw it, I was like, I have to own that. So, but yeah, it was a really good birthday. It was good. I mean, aside from feeling weird because it was also the first day that I was taking my antidepressant again. So I was feeling a little off, because of that. But other than that, it was good. I had a good time. Yeah,
I got a Facebook message from somebody that knows you and Jen, and it was really awesome. And I just wanted to say thank you to them.
Yeah.
It's A, that they're listening, and B, that they reached out, because it just always means a lot. And, even like when Clint says, hey, I'm listening, or Jeannie says, I'm listening, I love it.
Yeah.
I appreciate the contact.
Yep. I remember you saying that back on Angela's Awesome podcast, about how when you're listening and it's something like you like to reach out to shows you're listening to and say, hey, this made me laugh, or I liked your show or whatever. And, it's like, I don't do that as much as I'd like to. I used to, like, what I do as much as I can is, this is going to sound like I'm just saying this for our benefit, but it isn't. Which is when I'm listening to a show, I use an app called Downcast, and they have a thing where you can post, share to Twitter. So I always share to Twitter, like, hey, I'm listening to this show. So, maybe other people that follow me on Twitter or whatever will go, oh, what's that? And they'll, maybe click on it and listen or something. But sometimes I will reach out to shows and tell them what they mean to me and stuff. I've mentioned before, like the Wrestling with Depression show that I use at the end of his show. He does a questions list with his guest that's basically the list you'd get if at your doctor's office to kind of see, it's like 10 questions basically to see where you are with your mental health. And every time I listen, I run myself through the questions while I'm listening. And, so I reached out to Marty and told him that. And he's like, oh, that's so cool, and I've gotten a couple of links from him where I've emailed him or messaged him and be like, hey, can you give me, that link? And, because it'd be great for us to share here or whatever. So it's, I can't encourage that enough. If there's a show you listen to and you really like it, reach out to him and, give him an attaboy or whatever, or,
Or in the case of the, this one podcast I like to listen to on a weekly basis, that they're doing a bit right now. One of the guys is unemployed and is somebody is being required, by law to go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so he's paying the unemployed guy $20 to go to the meetings for him and get the signatures done.
Wow.
And so they're doing a bit on the show, and it's really funny. Right. But this last week, they actually started talking about their opinions about, alcoholism, addiction, and recovery and stuff. And so I just sent a simple tweet saying, love the bit on the AA meetings. And, by the way, I've been sober for 10 years and you guys don't know bleep about addiction and recovery. And what's great is the response back I get is, well, Hannah, we pretty much don't know bleep about anything.
Sounds like the response you would have gotten from me and Tony.
Yeah. And it was just that, once again, just that communication of just saying, hey, enjoying it, listening, whatever.
Yeah. And it's, it's fun as the person running the show or on the show, that you get those things too, cause it's like, oh, okay, someone cares that we do this week to week, cause, I know how it is. Like for a while, like when Tony and I started Salty Language, we got like nobody really reaching other than people we actually knew, and and it's nice to hear that, but it's also, it's not the same. Having a stranger reach out to you and tell you that it carries more weight generally.
It does.
Because there's no obligation. Like with friends and family, they may feel obligated to tell you something is good or whatever, even if you don't make them feel it, they may just feel that way, With a random stranger, they generally are not going to have, like, they can just keep about their life and who cares, So yeah, I definitely appreciate it. It's nice. I guess while we're here it's kind of like you might as well just kind of point out, like,
segue.
we're kind of, gratitude is kind of, what we're planning on talking about here. So, this all fits right into it. Because, it's really interesting. Like, I think this was one of the first birthdays I've had to where I really went into it looking to appreciate things versus how my head has been framing life in the past. Like I really was able to, well, again, I messaged you almost while that stuff was going on or just after it was over, whichever it was, but it was still close enough either way to where I was kind of still in it, So, it was a really interesting to do it that way. And it made it so much better. It was so nice to walk into it. And again, I went through every person, for a while. I had to stop because I was getting too many, but I was like thanking every person that I was getting on Twitter. And again, there was no like, I refused to let myself do any minimizing with it. It was all thank you. That means a lot, all that kind of stuff. I was not allowed in my head. I told, you're not allowed to minimize anyone who says it, and that's why I pointed out with even if it is because they saw it on social media and they didn't know it normally, that doesn't matter. They still went out of their way to wish me well. So, there's no reason to minimize any of it. It's all really awesome. Anytime someone takes of their time and gives it to you, that's pretty cool. So
just straight appreciation.
Yeah.
But but here's the other thing is you got to be in the right place for it.
Yeah.
Yep. And you were in the right place to accept it.
Yeah. It was really odd. This is one of those where, I could, like I said, I kind of felt the win as it was happening, hey, this is how it's supposed to be.
You know what? You're right.
This is how it's supposed to be. Not overthinking, not going, oh, they're only doing it because it's on Facebook. It's like, no, it was still, like I said, it was still cool that somebody took the time to do it. And, I always try to do that for others too. Like when I see it's their, if it's someone I know and it's their birthday, I'll send them a message. And there's actually someone on Twitter today that's, I've been in a group with for a while now, and I had no idea she was as popular as she is on Twitter. Because like a ton of us put something on our avatar and changed our name a little bit as kind of a solidarity kind of a thing just to, and she's been like, this is so overwhelming because so many people have, and it is like, I've seen so many avatars today with that change on it that it's like, man, this is crazy. It's cool. That's when cool. The communities work as communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so overwhelming to see it, that it's really the best of people, that everyone's like, hey, it's really not much of a sacrifice in your end, but you're doing it to make someone's day. It's really cool.
Yep.
So yeah, it's good fun. I definitely encourage it. It's my favorite part of this stuff is the communities of these things and making friends with people. We've mentioned it a million times on these shows. It's so awesome to, whether you meet in person or you just meet online, it doesn't matter, especially not in the world we live in now. I think that line is so blurry compared to how it used to be. Just talking to someone on the phone would be one thing, but now we got Skype and, we're on our phones all the time, so we can interact in so many ways that, really, sometimes you gotta, it's a stop and smell the roses moment, like really appreciate the technology when it's used right,
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked plenty about how it gets abused.
Yeah. But when it's used right, it's an amazing thing, I told Henno I've got a couple of articles here because the one really stood out to me when I first saw it. It was from Psychology Today, and it's called "How Gratitude Combats Depression." And I'm not necessarily going to get into all of this, but it basically points out how, gratitude is like the natural enemy of depression, because depression makes you want to, why is this happening to me? Only things that happen are bad. So you don't appreciate what does happen to you because you're so caught up in the negative that you stop looking at, little wins, and you stop looking at even big wins, depending on how far you're into it. You can underestimate big wins, and overestimate small losses, catastrophizing things and whatever. And, this kind of points out how people do that, and how this reframing is so important, and it's such a good tool for people. Jen and I did a show called Gratitude Lists, I believe. I can't remember which episode it is, but if you go back and listen to it, we talk about doing gratitude lists, which, if people don't know what those are, they're lists that, you kind of choose the time, like whether you do it once a week, once a day, however you want to do it. But you write down things that you're just grateful for. Just in life. And they don't have to be big things at all. You can be grateful that the weather cooled down, or, just whatever it is. But what it does is it forces you to really it forces you to start paying attention to what all is going on, and you start seeing that things aren't as bad as you thought they were, and that's the goal anyway.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's the idea that it's very difficult to be resentful when you're in gratitude.
Yes, exactly. And, so this first thing it's got seven gratitude techniques, where is it? Oh, this was written around Christmas, so it's an older thing, but these still are, relevant. But, something you can do and kind of, do these year round. This, like I said, it was written at Christmas, but you can do this year round. And the first one's a gratitude visit. Deliver a letter of gratitude in writing or email to a person you're grateful to, but have not thanked appropriately. And that makes sense. Again, that's, giving your time and really looking at something that you're happy has happened or is in your life, or someone that you're happy, even if it's, hey, you know what? I appreciate you. Heno and I have done this to each other. We like in a message, we'll be like, hey man, I just want you to know I appreciated that talk. Like we've done this before, and when you hear that from someone else, it really gives you a full feeling. It's so like, wow, that was, cause so many times what we're doing to people, how many times do you hear someone talk about like, oh, people don't listen anymore, it's, so if someone does listen, here you go. Send them a note and say, hey, thanks. I wouldn't even say you'd have to be an email. I honestly think heck, those DMs that I got for my birthday or that told me I was appreciated were awesome, but just do that normally, if people do something.
Buddy of mine, he sends me just a text message every once. Oh, we might be chatting about something business related, like, oh, he's working on something for me or whatever it is. And then he'll just randomly just say, I really appreciate our friendship.
Yeah.
And at first it was a little surprising.
Yeah.
I was really like, because at first I'm like, well, what else would I do? I mean,
yeah, right.
Then but then I went, no, all I have to do is say the same thing in return. I appreciate our friendship too.
Yeah. And it's the truth though, but you're right. Like the first thing you want to do is really,
it's not minimizing it, but it's just to kind of sit there and go,
yeah, you want to go, dude, like, we're friends. That's what friends do. You're not trying to minimize it. You're like, this is what we do. Yeah, I fully understand.
And it made me realize how much of it was just a simple gesture,
mm-hmm.
and how I could do that to anybody else. Like you're talking about, it's an opportunity to take self-center and make yourself other-centered.
Yes. It's the reason why whenever someone says, have a nice day to me at a store or whatever, even if the job mandates it, I generally will look back at them and say, thank you, you too. And it's that same concept as I just, you know, like I said, I don't have to do that, but it's the idea that I remember working at places where I had to say, have a nice day or hello or whatever. And when people ignore you, it stinks, you know?
Yep.
So, let's see. The next one is 3 good things. Write down 3 things that have gone well for you this week and an explanation why those things happened. Again, that's if you're doing gratefulness journals or gratitude journals, you know, that's kind of what it is. I used to do this actually, when I was in high school. I did this. I used to force myself to write like one good thing a day. And it was to try to help me from getting too low, you know, because I knew at times that I was thinking too low. So I'd kind of write in a journal type of thing, and I'd always try to write one good thing that happened or one thing that, you know, and it, you know, wasn't framed negatively. Like, what's one thing that, you know, you appreciate about the day? So it was, you know, that's a real good technique. And again, what that ends up doing is today it's 3. You can even take this and go a little further. You could start with 1 or 2 or 3, and then over time go, I'm going to write 5. I'm going to write 10. And eventually you'll just start thinking, you know, it'll help you reframe. It's why it's such a great tool for, you know, people who are depressed.
And it's, you know, there's something in, with 12-step groups, and it kind of comes from Buddhism. It's the same thing where it's the idea of having, and this is a habit that's worth creating, and it ties in with this, is like the idea of upon awakening and upon retiring. And it's just a simple exercise of when you wake up to have, you know, whatever you want to make as far as, you know, make a commitment for the day. And you know, and part of that, it can be a gratitude list. And I just do it in my head. And yeah, it's pretty much the same list all the time.
Mm-hmm. And it can be. It totally can be.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, for anyone listening, you know, like don't let that go, well, I can't come up with something. Okay. That's totally okay.
Do the same one day before. Yeah.
You can't tell me that day to day there aren't things, you know, like, you know, I'm sure you're grateful for Sharon every day, right?
Yeah.
Or most days, you know, no. You know, so.
But that's the idea.
Yeah. So it'd be okay that if she were on the list or something of that ilk, you know, or
well,
I'm employed or whatever it is, you know.
Well, exactly, that I have a job to go to, all that stuff. But even more importantly, and this is the thing that most people don't talk about, is you actually should list the person that maybe you're not feeling a whole lot of gratitude for.
It's true. You're right. Yeah.
And I know some people who have a practice where if they do find themselves harboring a resentment for somebody, that they do a small prayer for them every day, or some sort of thought, or they talk, you know, they do a gratitude thing for them every day. And it's not and part of it is to actually extend it to, and I like this exercise of wishing them all the good things that, you know, that I have.
Yeah.
I want them to have all the happiness and all the joy that I've been given in my life, you know, rather than, you know, I wish that they get everything that I think they deserve.
Yeah. Or hate, you know.
So you do this for 3 weeks. And if after the end of 3 weeks, you haven't lost your resentment, then you have to bake them a cake. Most people will get over the resentment rather than have to bake them a cake.
Yeah. Now, I guess in fairness, if you're terrible at baking a cake, I mean,
well, then it might, you might still want to do it because it's just a form of you know, tooth decay or tooth damage.
Yeah.
You know, or however you make a puck.
Yeah. Like delicious.
And then the other part of that is the idea of upon retiring. And this is just, once again, to take a moment. And yeah, we all have lots of things we can be frustrated about that happen during our day. And most of us, what we do is when we get home, we tune out.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly okay. That's what it is. Sit down, have a drink, whatever it is you do, you turn on the TV, you play your favorite video game, whatever you do to kind of just, you know, get past it. But before you go to sleep, think about a couple of things that you're grateful for that happened. Or that you did something that, you know, what was your win for the day? Something that you did right.
Yeah.
Someone that you're grateful for because of an interaction.
Yep.
Maybe just 2 or 3 things. What a great way to end your day.
Yeah,
then
that's
throw
true.
the pillow on the head.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah, you're right. It ends it on a positive note instead of ending on worry, and it may help you with sleep as well. Because you're framing your mind. It's why a lot of people will meditate, before bed, is to try to get that negativity out of their head before they lay down. So it could be the same concept. If you put positive thoughts into your head before sleep, it may help you relax for sleep. So there's
even if it's just as much as saying, thank you, universe, for the day.
It really is. I was going to
it.
say, actually, like people, it's one of the spots, like you can't fault somebody who prays because that's essentially what they're doing. If they're doing it, if you do a morning, night or whatever, you're kind of doing the same idea, So whatever it is that you do to put, positive thoughts into your head, and such, that's, whether you, like you said, whether you write them down, you put them in your, it's just in your head, or if you tell someone else. Heck, maybe if you're with a spouse and you each tell each other one thing you appreciate about them at the end of each day,
What a great exercise.
It builds a relationship as well as just, as putting positive thoughts into each other's head, and it may have other benefits too. Wink, wink.
That's awesome.
So the next one is using signature strengths in a new way. Use one of your best strengths in a new way every week.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a into action kind of step.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good because, you did the in the mind kind of making that commitment. And then there's the, put your money where your mouth is.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's, are you a good listener? Well, maybe volunteer to, work a phone line or something like that, or, or go talk to people who just need it, visit people in a cancer ward or, kids or something like that who just need someone to talk to, Are you good at art? Maybe volunteer for, something or, as I've done in the past, like given stuff for fundraisers, that kind of thing. So that it's maybe not something I would do every day, but, it's cool when you can get involved and do stuff like that. So, I don't know, whatever it is you feel that is your strength, But using it in a different way is an interesting one because, challenge like have a list kind of a thing. Well, I already did this, so can't do that again, and see how many ways you can challenge yourself.
True, actually, yeah.
Or force yourself to not use the same strength again and again, to really kind of strengthen, maybe that's a good self-esteem building project right there, Like, oh, well, I did my good listening this week, so I can't use that one again. Now I have to find something else about myself that's strong and,
And it's also interesting would be to ask somebody else just, hey, what do you consider my strengths as a person?
Yeah, true. Yeah. And then go find, there you go.
Because I bet there might be a couple in there that you might surprise you.
Oh, there's a good chance of that, I would think. Something you probably don't think is a strength that other people see.
Yeah. Because we don't see these things in ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that's an interesting one because that one's one where you got to you have to do a little work in you as well with that concept, or it's a great opportunity to do work within yourself, whichever. The next one is 3 funny things. Write down 3 funny things you experienced or did this week and an explanation why those things happened. Again, makes sense, right? Because funny is generally framed in a positive manner, and
it's true. Yeah, you're putting yourself into that positive space.
Yeah. Also, or a lot of times funny things happen and break up what should be maybe an embarrassing moment, or
That's true too. Like, is there a situation where you can turn the horror show into a comedy?
Yeah. Well,
or the drama into a comedy.
A few weeks ago when I remember standing at the grocery store in the Batman shirt and the elderly gentleman going, Yep. You look different out of costume. It was something that, that would be a great thing I would write down, because it made me laugh in a situation where I was like, so.
It's a great story.
Yeah. Those are great ones from, and I like that anyway, because, I always try to find humor when it's there, you know, like just sometimes the smallest thing will make me laugh the hardest, you know, just the weird juxtaposition of one thing with another thing. And for some reason I just, you know, bust up.
You just lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a cool
especially when it's one of those lightning moments, you know, where like the situation gets lightened.
Yes.
You know, and you typically at least for me, I end up laughing at myself.
That's usually what ends up happening. In fact, that's what most of them end up being. Like, I'll do something and I'll just laugh like a maniac at myself because, you know, just as negative as this sounds, it'll be like, how could you be so stupid? You know, but you're saying it because it's funny, not because you're truly, you know, tearing yourself down. Let's see, the next one is, counting kindness. Count and report the acts of kindness you offer every day, or the ones you receive every day. That's not a bad one, because that's a great way to look at yourself, because if you go, wow, I didn't do anything that I really feel like is an act of kindness today, you might be like, I need to step my game up, you know?
Yeah. And it might also make you more aware of how other people do kindness around you.
Like especially if you, like to me, I like the way my brain works is I would do both and make sure that it at least balances. Because if I realize that I'm doing one and getting 6 or 7 a day, I'm probably going to go, you know, maybe I could put some more effort into this and get the number up to, you know, 2 or 3. I mean, obviously you interact with way more people, so, you know, the math probably could be skewed easily, but it's, you know, again, a great opportunity to not just help yourself with maybe depression, but just in general, just to be a better person, you know, to be more of service to others or whatever. Oh, wait, speaking of, number 6 is gift of time.
There you have it.
Offer at least 3 gifts of time by contacting/meeting 3 persons about whom you care about each week. That's a good one too. That's just a good life tip anyway, you know, to give of yourself when you can. And like I said, even if it's a friend of yours, you know, you can just tell they need, you know, whether it's they're having a rough go or it's just a stressful week and, hey, let's go grab dinner or let's go hang out or, you know, just to, you know, give your time because it, you know, I mean, we can go various ways with this. 1, it just helps. 2, you never know what it may prevent. You know, just that reaching out to somebody, it might stop them from, you know, doing something drastic. You know, you just never know. So. Yeah.
And there are some times where, and these are these little things that I so often forget about is just even just asking somebody like at the end of the week, hey, what are you doing this weekend? You know, and if they don't, you know, like, hey, would you like to get together, have a cup of coffee or, you know, you want to go out and get some breakfast or a simple little thing like that.
Yeah.
Even just for anybody, just as we talked about getting those messages for your birthday, that is always a lightning moment and it's a connecting moment.
Yeah, definitely is.
We're so used to just disconnecting from the world at the end of the day, but to actually make a commitment to reconnect with somebody.
Yeah.
I think that
I'll tell you, and I go one step further even with this sometimes in that, like, I'm a person who, if I'm on, say, Twitter, especially, you know, because I'm on at night a lot, and I don't know how many times I've seen somebody post something that you can just tell something's not right, you know, and I'll reach out to them. Hey, everything okay? You know, or, hey, I know we don't know each other, but if you need someone to talk to, I'm a person, you know, basically. Like, you know, you don't, you know, I know sometimes things with people are very personal, but sometimes they're not, you know, sometimes what's really just getting on somebody's maybe work is just overwhelming. It's not a relationship thing, or it's not them opening up about their depression. But I'll see with other people sometimes, I'll see them post about being depressed or whatever, and I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I know nothing really sounds right now, you know, kind of a thing. But if you need someone, you know, type of thing. And I've got various people who've now, they reciprocate, and it's, cool. That's what you're looking for. It's like, see, this is how we help each other out, you know?
Yep.
So again, it's not even someone that I care for before. I just see another person suffering and I'm like, let's see if I can help, you know? So, and sometimes they're like, nah, you know, but I've had a few that I absolutely did not know completely open up to me, I mean, like, tell
That's
me
cool.
very personal things, you know, and I'm like, wow, you know, cause it's like, I don't know you, and you're, you know, but it's like they needed it so bad that, you know, so like I said, even if it's just something like that. Yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not doing it so that I can come on a podcast and brag it up. I'm doing it because depression sucks. When I see other people go through it, I don't want them to. I never want anyone to go through this. You know, I've told people before, I would take on the world's depression if it meant no one else dealt with it. And I'm not trying to be a martyr or anything. It's just, it sucks that bad, you know, that you just don't want others to go through it. So, you know, whether it's that or, you know, whatever it is, like I said, it's like I said, even if it's you just hear a friend's having a rough week. Tony and I have done that various times, you know, and, you know, he'll say something and I'll, you know, whatever, or he'll reach out to me because I'll post that I'm having it down, you know, kind of in a spiral, or I'm just down or whatever. And he'll be like, oh, let's go get some drinks, or let's go hang out for, you know, and it's like, that's exactly, sometimes it's exactly what I needed, is just, you know, just be there while I'm miserable, you know, and a lot of times I'm not at the end of it, you know, so.
And this, you know, even this applies to so many different moods that we get into. You know, we're just feeling a little bitter, or we're just, you know, feeling like the world isn't treating us right, or if our little plans just aren't coming together, maybe it's an opportunity to get out of your plans and get into somebody else's for a change.
It's so true. And there's times when that works out for the best anyway, you know, where you're, hey, what are you doing? I don't really feel like doing whatever. Come on, let's go do that. Fine. Yep. And you do it, and then you're like, I'm so glad I came out. I should have, you know, it was, you know, we had a great time. I should, you know, if I'd have stayed home, I would have been miserable all night or whatever, wallowing in it. So, you know, that's, yeah. But yeah, reaching out to people, like I said, that's just a good life lesson anyway. You know, just, why not? You know? Yep. Not to mention, you know, you could take it the other way too and just be incredibly narcissistic about it and just show up at your friend's house and be like, hey, I'm here. I'm giving you my time. You know, you should be more thankful.
Where's dinner?
Yeah. I'm adding to your
grateful. Cracking.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm adding to your grateful list. I'm kidding. Mostly. I better see my name on that list. Like, spend time with Brian.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is, one door closes, another one opens. Write about a moment in your life this week when a negative event led to unforeseen positive consequences. That's an interesting one. I like that one a whole bunch. That's almost next level when it comes to fighting depression.
Yeah, it is. It's actually next level when it comes to understanding humanity and spirituality, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I don't think that one's for beginners. You know what I mean?
No, because it comes down to this idea, because this is really that thing where it's just like, you know, especially for people that do have spiritual beliefs, or, you know, where they talk about, it's like, well, you know, why did God make this happen?
Yeah.
Or, you know, what, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, it's up to you to find that out.
Yeah. Exactly.
That the idea that, okay, if nothing happens in our world by mistake, if you want to start with that premise, that means you will find the reason why things happened. And that's where that comes back to the idea that, you know, setbacks, they're not setbacks. Mm-hmm. They're growth opportunities.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a growth opportunity for you today.
Let me punch you right in the face.
Yeah, and I know it's so cheesy and it sounds like such rhetoric, but this is how I try to do things now.
Yeah.
I look at it and okay, what did I learn from this? Because what it does is it takes me out of what the world did to me, what somebody else did to me, what that company did for me. Yep. And I get to go right to the main thing is, okay, what was my part in this? And if I can find any little part, that means there's something I can change, because the only thing I can change is me and my attitude.
Yeah.
Not anybody else. And that's why this is this is a little bit of the graduate school part.
It is. It really is.
Life.
Because you've really got to be able to look at your, like, I think you also need some distance, obviously, from the events, too. Because, like, I don't think this is one where I could write about this week and write as easily as I could. I can name various times in life to where I was really negative and down, but 5 years later, I can go, wow, you know, I'm really glad I didn't this. Or how many times you can do that with relationships a lot of times.
Yep.
You know, I've known people that when they break up, they're so down, and I'll be like, look, this is going to make me sound like a jerk, but you dodged a bullet. You'll see it 5 years from now. Like, you may not see it now, but you will see it down the road. And you do a lot of times, because sometimes there's things about people, like relationships don't work. And then 5 or 10 years down the road, you're like, you see that person and you're like, ooh, you know, or just something better has happened in your life. And you're like, wow, if I had stayed with them, this wouldn't have happened. Because,
or you come to the truth that you weren't really ready.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever it is. But the hard part about this exercise is it puts you face to face with justified resentment.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Because hey, we all love to hold on to that stuff.
Yep.
We all love to have that, you know, we don't, that is not an easy thing to let go, because guess what? I'm right. They were wrong.
Yes, definitely. That's on the distorted thinking.
In this case, you have to say, yeah. On that, what list is that on?
The distorted thinking worksheet. About being right. About always having to be right, and basically not letting go of being right.
Yeah. And to sit there and now go, okay, what could I get out of this? What can I learn from this? What can I grow from this? Well, before you can learn what you can do differently or what you can learn, you have to let go of the fact that it was somebody else's doing.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go down the path of discovery until you realize that maybe you could have done something different.
Yes.
So yeah, that's why this is the
well, and,
AP class.
Yeah, and, you know, and sometimes it's just a matter of I can give a great example, which was, after Tony and I had to close our comic book shop, I was really depressed about having to close it because I felt like a failure, and you know, I was going through all that kind of stuff. And I wish I still had it open, and I kept doing that. Couldn't this have happened or whatever, right? And again, I'm not examining what I could have done differently in the moment because I was still too close to it. You know, it was still so fresh. So over a year, or less than a year, or just over a year later, my dad, less than a year after that, it was just a matter of months, I think it was, after we closed, my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer. You know, and had we not had closed our business, I would have had to basically juggle both at the same time, which would have been incredibly difficult to do, you know, because as a business owner, you're putting in all the hours essentially, you know, so it would have made life way, way harder on me. And dealing with my dad dying was enough stress, you know, in itself. I can't imagine trying to run a business on top of that. I don't know that I would have made it through that. I mean, I would have probably, but that stress level, who knows what that would have done to me through that time, you know? And so being years clear of it now, I can look back, I can look at the business and go, well, I should have done this. Not in a would have, could have, should have way, but in a I'm learning from my mistakes way. You know, like if I were to open another one, I would be more cautious with A, B, and C type thing. And I can also appreciate that I was where I was supposed to be, you know? And that's the big key for me, is where I needed to be was right there helping my dad. I didn't need to be in a comic book shop, you know, or kind of a thing. And you can look at that. If you don't want to look at that as divine intervention, that's fine too. I don't know that I do. It's just the way life worked out. But it lined up perfectly, but I didn't see that it lined up perfectly because I was depressed from closing the business and obviously depressed from the fact that my dad was dying. And then once I got through that and years have happened now and I've kind of looked back now, like I said, I can look at that and go, that's exactly where I should have been. There's no question in my mind. If I had to choose, I would do it the same way, you know, to where it's like, no, we got to close this because I have to put a lot of time into helping with my dad, you know?
Yeah.
And
that's that idea of, I love that you said those words, which is you were in the right place.
Yeah.
You know, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And I will say that even when times aren't, you know, usually it's when times aren't that great. We all want to talk about, oh, I was in the right place at the right time with the stroke of luck.
Yeah.
But more often than not, I grow more by accepting that I was in the I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be when change is happening.
Yeah.
Because that's that leads you towards what the idea, like, okay, was it fate? Was it, all the stars aligning? No, for me, the path always shows itself with 20/20 hindsight.
Yeah.
And that's all you need.
Yeah, really.
You don't need to predict it.
Mm-hmm.
At least, I'll just have to talk from my own perspective. All I have to do to get something from it is see how this happened for a purpose. Yeah. I have to look back at it and reconcile it somehow and say, and even if I don't believe it at that time, is to try to say that this has happened for a reason. I may not know what the reason is right now, but I know it will be revealed to me.
Yeah.
And at that point, it'll all make sense. And this is the hard part, is when you start looking at years down the line, like you were talking about a relationship. A relationship ends and you struggle over it for years.
Yeah.
Which I've done.
Sure.
And then a new relationship pops up that is even more miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, that's why that had to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Huh.
That's why, exactly. And that's why I said sometimes you can really gain your clarity at that point. And sometimes like I said, you can look at some people and go, wow, I dodged a bullet there. Like, things would have been really difficult, or this is home. The other wasn't right. It felt right at the time, but it just wasn't. Like, cause then you can actually in your head you can kind of compare even and go, everything's right here. It just feels like it. The other was good, but it didn't have this nest to it, So yeah, it's a very powerful thing. Like you said, it's like, I think, and look, I've only been doing therapy and looking at myself in these kind of manners for, a year-ish time. But a couple of years ago, that tip would have been one that would have been really hard.
Oh yeah.
To really appreciate,
just to wrap your head around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you get it. There's there's times in life where you can easily see that, oh, this didn't happen, and then something good happened or better happened. Like, you interview for a job, you don't get it, but 2 weeks later you get a better offer, and you're like, wow, like you were saying, it's you luck into that kind of a concept or whatever. It's generally not. What do you learn from that? Nothing. Because
nothing. Oh, and that's we love to attribute divine intervention when something quote unquote good happens to us. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, but when something bad happens to us, it can also be divine intervention.
Yeah.
and it comes back to this idea of faith. And that's why I bring it up all the time because of this. Because, when you're in your most cynical and you're just full of sarcasm and cynicism, we love it. So when you're in your most cynical and your most sarcastic time periods, I know for myself, the last thing I want to talk about is faith. It's all of a sudden everything's very logical.
Yeah.
Everything's, the world sucks. There's no such thing as, reframe this.
Mm.
It's like, that's how we get.
Yeah, it's true.
That when we're in those dark places, and that's why when you talked about like, oh, a year ago, none of this would have, well, of course it wouldn't, because you couldn't be more close-minded.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in that place.
Yeah.
We're not open. I mean, that's where I was.
Yeah.
I I actually looked at people that were just seemed so joyful, and I just wanted to ridicule them.
Yeah.
Or, or I thought they were dumb or something.
Mm-hmm.
When they were actually smarter than I. They were more open-minded than I was.
Yeah.
All I was cynical and sarcastic and kind of mean.
Right.
And so that's why I think I get that it's not easy for everyone to grasp onto faith. And I don't mean faith as in from a religious standpoint. I really mean it from the standpoint of trust that things are going to be okay, or some sort of level of, acceptance, understanding, and the ability to let, events unfold as they need to.
Yeah, exactly. It's the idea that, when you look at something, again, we go back to Chicago. Going in, my head was, negative. We went into, and walked right into exactly what I expected and emerged from the other side of it. And then now looking at it, you can go, well, yeah, sometimes you can have that negative mindset and you're 100% right. But you know what? I still walked through on the other side. It was totally okay. Yep. It's even with that scenario, I still walked out. So, there's no reason to let the potential for something stop you. You just, like you said, I went ahead and did it and things were going to happen. Whether they were positive or negative, we went in and things were going to happen. It was, couldn't stop it. It's crazy how life works like that. Things happen, and
yeah, you walk up to a door and the freaking thing won't open and you go, Kya!
Yeah. And then the door opens. Yeah, exactly. It's, I guess using the joke that we were using, that kind of was divine intervention a bit, though. Because, it was
really was
for Jesus, but
yeah. Yeah. When you break out the karate kicks.
Yeah. But it's that idea that, you just can't, if you just stare at, it's going to be negative and I'm not going to do it. And like you said, you just get caught up in that cynicism and stuff. It's like, if I had let myself do that, I wouldn't have gotten to see all those awesome Van Gogh paintings. Yep. And the other artwork, because I wouldn't have gone to the art museum at all. And I got to see tons of other artwork. Do you know how much I'd be kicking myself for not going to that? Especially if you guys still went and I just didn't.
Yeah.
And I'd be like,
here's the pictures, Brian.
Yeah. Honestly, I would have probably been like, well, let's go tomorrow, but yeah. It's that's the thing is it's like, try to face the stuff rather than, kicking yourself or resenting that you didn't do it. It's an easier process. It's so much easier on yourself. Dealing with that stuff versus beating yourself up. Because what if that had been the last day of the exhibit, the day we went, and I didn't go? And that's it. No more chance to see it. That's the end of it. I would have beat myself up for so long on that, because it's my favorite artist and I was there, it wasn't like we had, it's not like we had to travel again. Other than across the city, so it's like, everything, the storm lined everything up for me, but I was still trying to find ways to sabotage it, but the difference was I didn't let myself sabotage it and it turned out to be great. Now, maybe it's not always going to work out that way,
No.
Maybe I walk in there sometimes and maybe I have essentially a panic attack and can't go through the rest of the thing. Yeah. What is interesting is, do they have any sort of an accommodations of any kind for people who have crowd issues or panic attacks to see those kind of art exhibits, I wonder?
Interesting. That's a great question.
Other than, you can look at it online, be like, yeah, have you ever seen a painting in person? Online doesn't cut it. You know the answer to that. I do. No.
You don't consider mental health issues to be real illnesses.
But even if it's tough because, just
or a handicap.
Yeah. Just that cattle call of people. There's
no, it's a good.
You'd have to have some sort of a procession or like this area is for handicapped people essentially only.
Yeah. Could you imagine the amazing outreach you could do with, especially with, some sort of a rehab hospital or anything where people are going through, some tough times like that, and to say, yeah, we're going to open up our museum for people that have, severe anxiety.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
Crowd issues, and we're only going to allow in so many people.
You're right.
So you have all the room in the world to see this amazing art that would ordinarily scare the ever living crap out of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's,
wow.
And it does remind you, like you're starting to see a little of that in the world now. You're starting to see theaters doing, changing their lighting and stuff to allow people who have like noise sensitivity or, light sensitivity, like those kind of things, so they can still experience these things. You're seeing baseball parks do stuff with, I know this is a physical illness, but or an ailment, but, like with peanut allergies, where they're sectioning off parts of the ballpark to make it friendly. And, it's like, I'm glad that people are getting these opportunities because like me, I love baseball. and I have a nephew who's allergic to peanuts. Couldn't go to a baseball game for the longest time because, they sell peanuts in baseball games, it's right there, And not just peanuts, but like the smell of them cooking the peanut, so, but yeah, going back to the mental illness part, you're right. It's just a normal museum. A lot of times you can go in and there's plenty of room. Like when we went through the rest of the museum, it wasn't, it was fine. It didn't bother. Well, for me, it was fine, but that exhibit area was so packed that it was just like, man, I could see where people would have a real issue with that. Like Jen has mentioned on the show about how she has issues with crowds. By the time we got through with, when we walked out of that exhibit, as much as I loved it and was excited, I was also like, ooh, cause there was all that space in the rest of the museum. And I was like, I'm so glad that the rest of this place is so open, because otherwise I would have had to have gone outside. Or somewhere to visually see space, But, Jen's mentioned that she has issues with crowds. I can't imagine her and I walking through there, and not at some point almost having to go, we have to get out of here, So, and it stinks that some people may have to not go to an exhibit like that because of something like that. But it's a tough one because I don't know exactly, like, unless you do, like you said, to where you have to basically, I don't even know how you work out the logistics to make sure people have conditions, unless they have to have a note from a doctor or something, but, to be able to walk through there. Cause I don't know, they don't do it for students either.
No.
Students don't get a special, like, student only time, to walk through, which I understand, it costs money to operate.
It would take a huge altruistic effort by the location themselves, the museum or whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, it feels like a step the right way though, but I don't know how there's a lot of logistics you'd have to work out. Maybe they've looked into it and they haven't been able to figure it out. I don't really know the answer to it. I was just, if anyone's listening and you know of a museum or something that does that, let us know. Cause I'll definitely mention it next time, cause I'm curious.
That would be a huge PR win.
Yeah.
And how could it not be?
Right. And that's why I said, cause, I'd hate to hear stories of people going, oh, I didn't go to that exhibit because it was going to be too crowded.
I can't handle crowds.
I cannot handle crowds. Yeah. Or enclosed spaces, not even just crowds, but just, because that literally closed your personal space down.
It's true.
To whatever size you are, and it was shoulder to shoulder. There was not a lot of movement room in there through most of it. There were some parts of it that had a little more, but there were some of it that were none.
Yeah.
And now again, part of our experience was that way too, because you and I were like right up on the art, but that's the way to see it. So
that's it.
We chose wisely.
Chose wisely.
Yeah, like I said, if people listening, if there's something like that that's going on, because I know there are some places. I think Disney World actually has essentially safe spots for people who have anxiety issues and have again that have issues with I can't think of it, but stuff that's triggered by like constant stimulation, like just people and noises and lights and, sometimes you need quiet zones. I think that's what they're called. I think they're called quiet zones so that you can go in and kind of like calm down. It's why at the amusement park that's not too far from me through the day, sometimes I would always be like, hey, let's go into the theater and sit down for a little bit, just kind of, calm down for an hour basically to kind of calm my anxiety back down, because the rest of the time, you're waiting in line, getting agitated. Then you get on the ride and you get the rush of that and then back in line. And, it's like the constant up and down, mentally and physically, and by the end of the day, I was usually like, all right, I'm done. I'm done, because of the crowd and the rides and stuff. I loved it, but it's still, like now I don't think I could do it because I've, kind of regressed on that. So, yeah. But, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a good spot to leave it. What do you think?
Is that the list? It's a great list.
Yeah, I have another article, but if we get into that, it's going to be another half hour probably.
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
Let's just,
Loved it.
So, yeah, I'll post this on the Facebook, and also, it'll be in the show notes if you want to read. There's a little more above and below the list too. If people want to check it out, of course that'll be available. I got to pull up the thing because I forgot to pull up my list of all the things I'm supposed to say now. All the stuff Jen usually says.
Just rattles off the top of her head.
I know, right? Jeez.
I assume.
Leaving me here to have to do all this. Yeah, let's see here. Dang it. It's not. There we go. Now it's open. If you want to continue the conversation with us, you can reach out to us at our website, which is thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com, or you can email us at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. Jen can be reached on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. Henno, what about you?
That's Jen's Crazy Life with a G.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that part. Correct, sir.
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno, and you can look me up on Facebook, Henno Heiter. I am easy to find.
Mm-hmm. True enough. You can also follow the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Stunami. You can check out the other show that I'm part of, which is Salty Language, which is not safe for work. It's salty_language on Twitter or at saltylanguage.com. If you want to find episodes of that, just like this show, and we're on all the same places, Stitcher, iTunes, we're on iHeartRadio now, whatever else you can find us. Let's see, I forgot. We have the Facebook group for the show, where you can find a lot of, I've put links to different, like help groups and groups to help people find therapy, or like the suicide prevention hotline info and all that kind of stuff is on the Facebook group, which can be found at facebook.com/groups/crazylifepodcast. You can also check us out at tangentboundnetwork.com, which, the network we're part of, as well as a bunch of other shows. So, go check those out and tell them we sent you or something. I don't know. We don't get anything for it. If you listen to us, however it is you listen to us, iTunes, Stitcher, or like I said earlier, I use that app Downcast. If it has a share feature, please do that so that other people can find us. And also, if you're on iTunes, please rate our show, and 'cause that helps us in their algorithms, which helps people find us easier. You can also find the audio of the show on YouTube. Again, I can't give you the link because they don't allow custom links, but the link's in the show notes, or it'll be in the Facebook page if you need it, or I can provide it for you if you want it. Whew. I think that's all of that. Now, I'll remind you that we're not doctors or therapists or trained professionals, and the show should not be used as a replacement for therapy. If you need help, please don't self-diagnose. I don't know why I haven't been mentioning that part of things. Please don't self-diagnose. Go seek out a professional and, get help. And if you are feeling suicidal, or you're like planning suicide, it doesn't even have to be, to the end step. Any step of the way, reach out to somebody if you can. Support system, a therapist, doctor. Call 911. Tell them that you're having a mental health emergency, just, the suicide prevention hotline number, whatever it is, just, try not to be alone and definitely don't act on those impulses. There's help out there for you. All right. I think that's everything. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so. Covered it all.
Awesome. All right. Take us out of here.
Keep breathing and wiggle those toes. You too, Jen.